Okay, so we are going to make this training very practical. If there's something you don't understand, please draw my attention so that I can explain to you. That's the reason why I'm here. So my name is Walter, and I'll be your instructor for this course. We are going to start with the assumption that we are all beginners starting from scratch. So please don't feel shy. If there's any question, ask. We'll start from scratch. Now, let me share my screen. Please, can you all see the screen I'm sharing? Good. From the course outline, we need to discuss what is Python. Then we need to look at why Python, and then we'll look at installation of Python and an IDE. The installation of Python and IDE might take some time, so I want us to quickly do those ones. Whilst those things are being done, we can go back to the theory. So from my screen, when you go to python.org, you should see a page like what you are seeing here. Then when we go to the download option, on the download tab, you should see the latest version to download. So that's Python 3.11.3. So you can click on it and follow the download instructions, the installation steps, and then you are able to install it. You might need to restart your machine if it's Windows for it to accept the system path. So let's walk through the installation steps. Okay, so with the installation steps, please, if there's any question, ask. I want the class to be very interactive. I don't want to have dull students. So once a while, let me hear your voice. I hope you can all see the screen I'm sharing so far. When you click to download the installation file, normally if you're in Windows, it will go to your download folder. So in your download folder, when you double click that program, you should get a security warning asking you whether you want to install this program. So you click on run. You should get an interface like what you are seeing on the screen here. Please, it is important that you select the install launcher for all users and also add path, the Python path to the Windows path. These two options needs to be selected for Windows. For Linux and Mac, you don't have any problem to worry. But for Windows, these two options need to be selected. Other than that, the operating system will not see the path to where the Python file is, and it cannot install. You cannot find the path unless you give the full path if you want to run a Python program. So it's important to select these two options. Any questions so far? Okay, so please, can I continue? Okay, so Grace, can you actually hear me? You said I should speak up. Can you hear me now? Okay, I should continue. Okay, so you need to accept the user account control by clicking yes. Then the installation steps will begin. When you are done with the installation, you should get something like this. Setup was successful. And then you can click close and then you are done. Now, we need to verify that the installation has been successful. So we have to go to your command line and then type Python. If you see something like what you are seeing on the screen here, tell you the Python version and give you a prompt. When you see something like this, it means that your Python has been solved successfully. So I want to make sure that we all have Python installed. We are currently 12 participants. Please let me see by hand all those who have been able to get Python installed. If you have any steps, I need to guide you. We are not going to leave anybody behind. Okay, so Alexis, please, by your hands raised up, it means you have been able to install Python successfully. Rachel, Wisdom, Josephine, Ufosua, Mercy, Moses, Jeffrey, Grace, please, can you confirm whether you have Python successfully installed on your machine? Okay, Richfield, Wisdom, do you have any issue? Richfield, Wisdom, Ufosua, Josephine, Moses, Jeffrey, any issue so that I assist you?
No, no, sir. I've been able to install it.
Okay, so all those who have been able to install it, please let's raise up your hands so that I'll know those who have not. Okay, Josephine, please, what seems to be the problem? let's wait for the others because no one should be left behind. So let me see by hands those who have been able to do the installation. So if you've been able to do the installation, let's see by hand. So please, once you're able to install it, let me see by your hands raised up. So we are left with note taker, Josephine, Jeffrey, Justin now. So let's give them some few minutes. If you need assistance, you could contact DM John or me to assist you. Okay, so we are left with Jeffrey, Justina, and note taker. Please, if you have any issue, please let us know so that we could assist you, so we can have Python installed on our machines and then we can continue. Richfield, Jeffrey, Justina, we are waiting for you. If there's any issue, let us help to resolve it so we can continue. If you are okay, please let your hand be up so I will know that everybody's hand is up and then we can continue. Okay, so I think we can continue. We are left with note taker, Jeffrey and Justina. So please quickly catch up. If there's any issue, let us know. So from my screen, when we search for Microsoft Visual Studio Code, or just type Visual Studio Code download. It should be the first one that pops up. That is the ID we are going to use for our work. So please, if you don't have it installed, click on the link, download it to your machine, and then install it, so we can all be on the same page. Okay, so I'm going to lower all your hands, and then please, if you have been able to install the Microsoft Visual Studio, let me see by hand, so that okay, so Mawuli has it installed. Please let me see by hands those who have it installed. Good, good. Okay, so whilst we are installing or waiting for our colleagues to install, let's have a little introduction to Tech Bridges Africa. Okay, so Tech Bridge Africa, we are a tech-focused training center, and we provide digital skills for young people in Tema and its environs. Our goal is that we want to empower the youth, focusing on entrepreneurship skills for the underrepresented communities, the youth in those communities. So we want to give or equip people with the necessary technical skills and practical skills so that they can succeed in this digital age. Right now, everything revolves around the computer. So having a knowledge or a skill would let you stand out among the rest. So that is our focus, our mindset. We want to organize training programs, mentorship, and also help close the skill gap by providing opportunities like what we are doing right now, having mentorship, linking people who are more experienced in the tech industry with the young ones or people who are upcoming so that they can share knowledge. We want to do networking so that at least you know where jobs opportunities are and what you need to be able to fill those opportunities. So basically, that is what we are about. So for us to be able to do these things, our objective is that we want to be able to provide workshops, webinars, hackathons, all of these things to be able to equip all of us and also close the skill sets. As we also want to provide mentorship. We also want to offer resources that will help you to be able to learn and then increase your skills and be able to fit and also apply for jobs. I also want to help with networking, whereby you know or you have a group of people who are all in the same industry. When you are faced with any challenge or any issue, we could all share ideas and come together to be able to resolve the problem we are facing. Now, these are our various social media handles that you could communicate with us from. Now, what we also do is that this class we are having, we are going to create a WhatsApp group for this class and its participants, and then we can collaborate from there, share resources, share links, be able to have chats, and even we'll organize an in-person meeting so we all come together once a while. All is for us to network and also share ideas and also improve upon ourselves. So, as I told you earlier, my name is Walter Okain and I am your facilitator. So these are my social media handles. So I'm a full stack web developer. I love to teach and consult. I'm always looking for opportunities to also give up to the community, also learn new skills, also meet people, and also polish the current skills I have. So that's my social media handles, and that's my pretty face there. Now, this course is going to be an 8 weeks, basically 2 months. Now, we could have done it in a shorter period of time, but because we are starting from scratch, I want to take my time to take you through the concepts and what you're supposed to know bit by bit. So for this session, we are going to look at Python, its history, philosophy, why Python. We are going to install the various IDE, and then we install Python. Then we'll look at commenting and Python data variables. That is the goal for today's class. And I want to take my time to go through them all one step at a time for us to really benefit and understand what's really going on. I don't want to rush. I want to take my time for you to understand what we are doing. So please, whilst I am giving the lecture, if there's anything you don't understand, please, you could prompt George or prompt me. I'll take my time and explain, because the success of what you are doing lies upon you understanding and being able to apply what you are going to learn. So it is very key that I make sure you understand the concept really, really well. So please let me see by hand all those who have been able to successfully install the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so I'm left with Richfield, Josephine, Jeffrey, Justina, and Juan. Please, if you can show by hand whether you've been able to complete that step also. Josephine, please, can you be clear with your question? How do we install it? Is it the Python or the Visual Studio Code? If you could be clear with your question. Okay, so have you been able to download it? Okay, so if you can see my screen, I went to the search bar, type Visual Studio Code download. That should be the first to appear on your page. So you click to download. After downloading, you double click to do the installation. The installation is straightforward. So just have you been able to download it? Okay, so Josephine is trying to do the installation. Justina, Jeffrey, Wisdom, Alexis, if I could show by hand whether you've been able to do the installation. Richfield, Juan, if you could show by hand whether you've been able to do the installation. So if you have any problem, you can DM me or George for assistance. So whilst that is going on, let's go back to our slide. Okay, so before you start learning anything, we normally want to know the history, the philosophy, why that thing came about. It will help us to really appreciate whatever we are learning and why we are learning it. So what is Python? Now, Python is a high-level programming language for general purpose programming. Now, so once we see high, then there's also low. Low programming languages are also there. High-level programming are also there. High-level programming languages, the syntax is similar to regular English. It's not that it is directly regular English, but then it looks like, or you can read it like regular English. But for low level, it's more of coding in zeros and ones that the computer can understand. So generally, low level programming languages are very difficult to learn. High level programming languages are easier to learn. Then also from our explanation here, we also see that Python is for general purpose programming. So once there's general purpose, then that means there are also specific purpose languages there also. So Python is for general, but we have specific programming languages. Fortran is more of business. Pascal, more of scientific in nature. So depending upon the field in which you are, you could use a general purpose programming language or you could use a specific programming language. But one thing that makes Python stand out is that it is a general purpose programming language. It can play in both areas. It's not specifically to only one area. So the creator is the gentleman we are seeing on the screen here. So that is Guido van Rossum. So he first released it in 1991, the first version. So he's a Dutch citizen. As of that time, he was using a programming language called ABC, and he was finding difficulties trying to do some things. So he was trying to write scripts to do those things he wanted to do, and those scripts grew into something that he showed it to his friends, and they were happy and said, "No, this can be given for everybody to be able to use." So in 1991, he released it and he gave it the name Python. So the name Python is not because of the snake, but as at that time, he was an ardent viewer of a British TV show called Monty Python. So he was looking for a name and just said, "Oh, then why don't I just name it Python?" So that's how the name came about. And we are all here because of that gentleman and for what he was able to do. He was doing it in his spare time, and then later the thing grew into something big. Now, Python is now being handled by a committee. There's a committee that handles the programming language, its addition, its subtraction, its improvement. But he, as we see here, is what we call the de facto leader for life. So even though there's a committee,
Hello, sir.
whatever the
Please
committee
become
does, he's supposed to also okay or have a say in it. So normally if he says, "I don't want this," it will not be implemented.
hello.
So that's why we call him a de facto leader for life. But that doesn't mean that the committee does not also have a say or does not be able to put input. But because of the philosophy, if there's anything that is trying to gear towards the philosophy why he created the program language, that thing is shout out. So we are here today because of this gentleman here. He worked with Google. I think he's now with Microsoft, and they are trying to add Python to the
Hello, sir.
Microsoft
Hello.
Office suite.
Hello, sir. Please, we can't see your screen.
So he's currently at Microsoft. They are trying to add Microsoft to the current Okay, so I was still on the slide, what is Python? And I was trying to give some more explanation and information about our creator, that he's currently with Microsoft. They are trying to integrate Python with Excel to be doing a lot of new and cool features. So very soon we should see that integration. Okay, another reason why Python has taken the programming world by storm is because of this number of libraries it has. Now, Python has a large standard library that contains tools that can be used for a lot of things. So the Python library is called the Python package index. And we use a command called pip to install those packages. And what makes this very interesting is that anything that you are trying to think of to do with Python, there's already a library that has been created. So you just need to pip install that library, and then you can do what you want to do. So if you want to create a graphic user interface, if you want to create websites, if you want to do multimedia, database, you want to do networking, you want to do automation, you want to do web scraping, documentation, system admin, scientific computation, process image, text processing, everything. There are libraries which have already been created for all of these things and more. We have over 130,000 and counting libraries. So you need to know the library and what it does, and then you pip install that library, and then you'll be able to use it to do what you want to do. So this is one of the selling points of Python, which has made it very, very popular. Okay, so why Python? If you look at other programming language like C, C++, Java, which are also very good programming language, Python is quite or relatively easy to learn and use. Now, Python 2 has a very matured and supportive Python community. They have Google groups and things. If there's any problem and you Google, you would communicate within that group. You will get people who are willing to help you resolve the problem. It's also being sponsored by renowned companies, even Facebook, Microsoft, Oracle. They all are even supporting or sponsoring the Python language because of the things they use it to do. So it has a backing of the most of the Fortune 500 companies. Now, as I said earlier, there are hundreds of Python libraries and frameworks also available. It's versatile, it's efficient, it's reliable, and it has speed. It is good for big data, machine learning, and cloud computing. And it's currently the number one programming choice for schools in the US for teaching computer programming or computer science. The language is flexible and it's also being used in the academia and it's interpreted language. So these are some of the reasons why Python is very popular and why we want to learn the language. Any questions so far? If there's no question, Alexis, Wisdom, Jeffrey, Mercy, and Justina, your hands are not up. I want to find out whether you'll be able to install the Visual Studio Code so that we'll all be on the same page and then we can proceed. Okay, so please, the house, can I continue? Okay, thank you, Wisdom. Okay, so now I want us all to start our Visual Studio Code editor. Okay, so I have opened mine. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, so this is the Visual Studio Code editor. Now, I'd want you to select this toggle panel where, if you can see where my mouse is, I want you to click on that toggle panel. No. If you're able to click it, if you can show by hand. So I wanted you to use this toggle panel. You could press Ctrl J to give you that same panel, or you can click it as I clicked it to see this panel here. Okay. Now, on that panel, there is terminal down there. And beside terminal, we currently have PowerShell open, but I don't want us to operate in the PowerShell. I want us to operate in the command prompt. So there's a drop-down button beside the plus icon. When you click on that drop-down icon, you select command prompt to change the terminal to the command prompt. To change the terminal to the command prompt. Please, if you're all there and I can continue, if I can have one person who would comment on the page that I should continue so that we could continue from there. Okay, so Justina, where exactly are you lost? Have you been able to install the Visual Studio Code? Justina, have you been able to install the Visual Studio Code? Yes or no? Okay. Okay. Please, have you been able to install it? Okay. So, if you can see my screen, either you press Control J or you click on the tab that my mouse is over to give you that window terminal that we want. So either you press Control J or you click the panel. As you can see with my mouse hovering other side, you click on this panel, toggle panel here. When you click on it, under you should see terminal. And the terminal will be in the PowerShell, but we wanted a command line terminal. So beside the plus button, where near to the terminal, there's a drop down box here. When you click on it, you select command prompt. And then you'll be where we currently are. Then we can continue from there. So just if you've been able to do that, we can continue. Before we start anything, we are going to have a quick introduction to the command line prompt. And the command line prompt is very, very, very important because that is where you would go to run some or if not most of your commands. So you should know the Windows command prompt, some basic information about it. So that's what we wanted to look at. Okay, so Josephine, if you are okay, if you can see by hand so that we can continue with the session. Okay, so as you can see from my command prompt, which is under the terminal box down here, you can see that I am under drive C, a folder called env, and another folder called VUE. So that is where I currently are. So anything I do and I say will be under that particular folder. Yes, you will not see exactly what I have here. You might see something similar or something as just you might see something like this or something different. Okay. Okay, so the first command we are going to look at is cd with 2 dots. Cd means change directory. Now, cd with 2 dots means that I want to okay, so from what you can see from my screen, I am currently at drive C in a folder called env, then another folder called Django. So what it means is that Django is under env and env is under drive C. That is what it means. So if, for instance, I want to go to the env folder and I type cd with 2 columns, what it means I want to go down 1 step and I press enter, it has changed to only the cd. So that means I've gone 1 step down. If I want to go to the Django folder, I just say change directory, then Django to change or move me to the Django folder. So the change directory command helps you to change directly into a folder on your file system. And if you want to go down 1 step in your file system, use the cd with the 2 columns to go down 1 step. If you want to change directory, you use the cd to change directory to a folder on your file system. Now, there's another command called cls, and that is the clear command. The clear command will clear everything on your terminal. So, for instance, as I say, I type cls and press enter, it clears everything from my terminal. So that's the cls command. Now, if, for instance, I want to make a directory, I'll say mkdir. This is to make directory. So let me go down once. Let me go to drive C. So C dot dot will take me to env. cd dot dot will take me to drive C. So I want you all to go to your drive C as you see here. And then let's practice with some commands so that we get to understand the command line prompt, because it's something we're using a lot. So if you are able to go to your drive C, just show me by hand. Okay, so let me see by hand all those who have been able to go to your drive C. Okay, so Fusua has been able to do that. So let's see by hand those who have been able to do that. Please, if you don't understand anything, let me No, let me explain it to you because this is very, very key. The command line prompt is very, very key, not only for programming, for system admin, for even networking people. The command line is very, very important. So I want you all to understand. So let me see by hand all those who have been able to do that. So Moses, okay, Alexis is still doing her installation. Moses, Wisdom, Mercy, Joshua, Jeffrey. Let me see by hand. Okay, so we are going to create a folder called PY. That is where we are going to put all our codes that we are going to write there. So we've learned that mkdir command is used to make a directory. So when we type mkdir space and the name of the folder, so the name of our folder is going to be py. So when you type mkdir space py and you press enter, then that folder has been created. That folder has been created. So there's another command we are going to look at, dir. This is will list the things in your directory or folder, depending upon where you are. So when I did the mkdir space py, it want to make directory py. I press enter. That's brought me back to my C prompt. So this is our C prompt. You could also see something like this. You could see something like this. That's your D prompt, F prompt. But normally your operating system is always installed on your C prompt. Okay. So it has brought us back to our C prompt. So at our C prompt, if you want to see all the things which are under our C prompt, we type dir and we'll press enter. So dir enter means that I want to list my directory structure. So it has listed everything for us. So this is my directory structure. Okay. So you can see that any name that you see here, that you see the dir beside it, that means it's a folder. So these are the names. These ones are the names of the folders. And this is that they are folders. dir means they are folders. And then you get the time and the date those folders were created. So you see down here, I have my py, which has been created. So I want us all to create that particular folder. So after creating your folder, type dir. When dir opens and you see your py folder there, that you show by your hand. I know that you've been able to do so far. Okay, Alexis was asking a question. So we are downloading Visual Studio Code. That's what we are downloading, Visual Studio Code. You could use the Visual Studio Enterprise, but that is very bulky and has things that we will not need. So the free version is the Visual Studio Code. So just go to Google, type Visual Studio Go Code download, and be able to download that particular version. If George is on the line, if George, you have the installation file, you could also send it to Alexis to also download, install that particular one. Okay. So because we all want to be on one page, let's download Visual Studio Code. So Josephine has been able to do it. Please let me see by once. Let's create our folder called py. Let's create it. Oh, okay. Josephine Moses. Okay, very good. So Mercy, Wisdom, please. Let's create it so you can all be on that page. Okay. So that folder we have created, we are going to store all our programs into that folder. So anytime we are going to create a program, we create it in that folder, we store it in that folder, we'll run it also from that folder. So that's what we are going to do all the time. We're going to use that folder. Okay. So basically, the quick introduction to the command prompt is that you could have also done this in Windows, whereby we have right click and then create a folder. But we are doing all this on the command line prompt. Okay, so we've looked at how to change directory, one level down was how to change a directory, how to make a directory, how to list the content of a directory, and how to clear information. So those are the key things I want you to get on the quick introduction to the command prompt. So on that note, we could go back to our first lesson, that is commenting in Python. But before we do that, I want you to come and click on your file. Click on your file here, click on open, and then go to your drive C, and then choose your py folder and say select folder. Good. So this will be our py folder, and that's where we are going to do everything from. So normally you get this welcome screen showing you that you could start by creating a new file, open a folder, open a file, open a folder. I've already done that here. And then to give you your recent things you've done here too. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to create this py folder I see here. I'm going to right click on it. This py folder I see here, we have a new file and new folder. You could create a folder within the file. but I'm going to create a file. So I click on this first button here, the new file. The name of the file is commenting.py. Then I save
Hello,
it.
Walter. Hello.
Okay, so please, are you all on the same page?
Hello.
Have we created the PY folder? Have we opened that folder in Visual Studio Code? And have we
Hello,
created a file
Walter.
called commenting.py? If you've done all
Hello.
this, let me see by hand. Hello? Please, I understand some of us cannot hear me. Please. Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay, so I'll click Control J or click on this toggle panel here so that it can split the screen for me to see my terminal. Now, when you open, I want to repeat how you're going to create the PY folder from scratch using the terminal. So when you open the terminal for the first time, it normally opens in PowerShell. And PowerShell, you need to be the administrator of the computer for you to be able to use PowerShell well. So in order to avoid any issues, I normally will click on this arrow here and tell you that I want to use a command prompt. So by clicking this, it will change to the command prompt. Now, we learned that we use dir to list content of a directory. So when I come here, type dir and press enter, I see that I have this dot is a hidden folder. So I have a hidden folder directory, and then I have a file called commenting.py. Now, if I want to go to the root directory is drive C like this. If I want to go to the root directory, I type cd space 2 dots. So when I come down here, cd space 2 dots will take me backwards one step. So if, for instance, I was in a folder like this, if I was in a folder like this, what it means is that I am 1, 2, 3 layers above my drive C. So on drive C, there's a folder called ENV. Another there's a folder called Django. Another there's a folder called Chesssoft. So that is why I'm currently have. So I'm currently 3 steps higher than my drive C. So if I'm at that stage, I want to go to the drive C, I can use cd dot dot and I press enter. When I press enter, it will take me one step lower. So to come to the Django, I need to type cd dot dot to bring me to env, then cd dot dot again to bring me to the root directory. But here, because I am just one step up, when I type cd dot dot to take you to the root directory. So under the root directory, we learned that there's a command called mkdir, which is make directory. So mkdir space name of directory. So from that option, I wanted you to create a folder called py. So all that we're supposed to do is that mkdir py. We're doing this under the root directory. That is c:/ with that greater sign. So that is your root directory. So under the root directory, I say mkdir and I press enter. It will create it for me under my root directory. So in my case, I've already done that. So if I type dir and I press enter, you see that I have it here as a directory. So this is how we created the Pi folder. And then when I was done, I came to my Visual Studio Code, click on File, Open Folder, and then I navigated to the path or where I created that folder and I opened it. When I finished that, I clicked on this symbol here, that is new file. I created a file called commenting.py. That is the Python file we are going to use. Okay, so if we are all on the same page, let's see by our hands that we are all on the same page. So you can continue. Okay, so let me see by hands all who are on that same page. If you have any question, please ask. I want us all to be on the same page. Okay, so after creating the PY folder, when I came into Visual Studio Code, I clicked on File, Open Folder, and then I went to my Drive C and located my PY file, and I clicked on Open to open it. So when it opens, you see at the Explorer side, PY. Then you have these tabs here. The first tab is to create a file. The second tab is to create a folder within this PY folder. So I clicked on this to create a new file called commenting.py, and I clicked on enter. So that is basically what I did. Okay, so just see, what is it showing? Yours is not showing drive C. What is it showing now? Just wait, please. What drive letter is showing on your machine? Okay, so please let's be careful of note this. Now, case sensitivity is important. PY, capital PY and PY are two different folders. So if you made your own capital letters, you follow that convention. If you made your small letters, you follow that convention. Okay, so if you are done with that, if I can see by hands all those who are okay. So Josephine, I think you're okay. Richfield, Jeffrey, okay. Please show by hands all those who are okay with what we've done so far. So as you can see my screen, we are going to talk about commenting. Now, commenting is something that is important, not only in the programming world, but even everywhere. It's good to comment or make notes that you can always refer to. So in Python, we have two forms of commenting. We can have the inline commenting and then a multi-commenting. Now, to comment in Python, we use the pound sign. So this, and say, this is my first Python comment. Now, mind you, because the ID is styling this green for you to know that it's a comment. So this will never run, or the computer will never interpret this. This is for you, the programmer, to understand the code you are writing. So when you comment your code, it makes it easier for you to come back later and understand what you are doing. So this is my first Python comment. And then I have my program here. So anytime I open this program, this comment will let me know, oh, okay, this is my first Python program I wrote. So that's why we comment. Now, your commenting can be a lot. So if my commenting is a lot, there's no need for me to maybe do it this way. I can use three quotes, another three quotes, and then I can put my comments in between. So you can also use the double quote marks, 3 of them, or you can also use a very single quote marks. You can you normally see this. This is for another programming language, but for Python, either you use a single or inline programming. So this particular one, I could have put it at the top, or I could have also put it beside it on the same line. Understand this particular line, what it is doing, the comment here, or I can put comments at the top. So for instance, instead of me using this one, I'll clear this one here and I'll use this one. So I'll say that so this can be a comment. So I can have it that way or this way. Now, we said that commenting will help you remember what your code does. Now, when you are working in a group or a large organization, commenting is also very key. Your code needs to be commented because you're working with a team. It's not only you projects. So anybody who takes the code should be able to understand what you are doing. The person is supposed to be able to continue. So when you're working in groups, it's very important you comment. And commenting will even help you that even if after 3 years you come back to your code, you understand what you were trying what to do. So commenting is very, very important. Another way of also using commenting is that when you are writing a code, you can comment the steps that you are going to use to write your code. If you comment it that way, it will help you to be able to understand the logic of your code, and then you'll be able to put in the right information for your code to work. So let me give you a practical example. Maybe I've been asked to write a program that accepts information from a user and displays the output. So what are comments? Okay, so what is my, I can ask myself, what is my code supposed to do? Accept user input, process input, maybe display output. So by doing it this way, I've broken down my code or what the code is supposed to do in 3 comments. So under accepting the user input, then I put my code there. After processing the input, I put my code there. Then the information that's supposed to display output, I put my code there. So with this one, I'll be able to use a commenting to structure my code in such a way that I understand what my program is supposed to do, and I put in the codes under. And then also by this, I also commented my code. So if I know that everything from here to here is about accepting the user input, everything from here to here is about processing the input, everything from here is also about what? Displaying the input. So you can use commenting to outline the code. And use commenting for error checking as well. So for instance, as I have done it this way, if I'm getting an error and the error means that the data is not being processed well, then I know that, okay, it is not from the user input aspect, it's coming from the processing aspect, because that place is where I'm getting the error from. Then I come to that part of the code and be able to pinpoint where the issue is and resolve it. So commenting will help you. Commenting, you can use commenting for error checking. Also, for instance, if you have your code and you feel that maybe this particular line is what is causing the error, I can also comment that particular line out and run my code again and see whether it works. If it works, I know that, okay, that particular line is what caused the problem, and I can quickly uncomment it and then work on that code and then try again. So these are some of the important reasons why we comment. And if anytime you want to work on a team or you want to work with any programming company, software company, commenting is very key, a skill that you need to know. Other than that, you'll be found wanting, because it will be difficult for you to write 10,000 lines of code. It's working, but they tell you that you've not commented your code. Go and comment your code, and you have to now take the pain to go through it one by one and comment. So commenting is very, very important, and it is one thing that I learned the hard way, but it has helped me a lot. So from now to the end of this course, you see that anytime you are come to tackle a problem, we try to use commenting we try to use comment to align the code before we start coding, so that in a way we've been able to achieve or be able to comment our code efficiently. Any question on commenting? Okay, so whilst I'm waiting for questions, Josephine has asked a question saying that how did we create the commenting under the PY folder? Okay, so when I created the PY folder, when you use your mouse to hover on the PY folder, you see that you'll see these icons here, 1, 2, 3, 4. The first icon is to create a new file. When you click on it, you type in the name of your file. So maybe walter.py and press enter. So it has created it for me. So that's how we created the commenting That's how we created the commenting folder. Now, Joshua is also asking how we got the code. Joshua is asking, how did we get this icon here? Now, this icon here is an extension that I have downloaded to help me with my programming to make things easier. Now, when you come, this tab here is called the extension tabs. This tab here is called the extension tabs. You can add extensions to make your IDE better. So when I click on the extensions tab on mine, you see I have Vuta, I have material icon team. So the material icon team is the one that creates the icons for me there. Then I have live server. Live server will automatically refresh my page if I do any changes to my code. But this is for more front-end development. It's a tool I use. So this tool you can just search for it, material icon theme, and then you click and install it. When you click and install it, it will provide or you with that icon, like the Python icon that you see here. And the normal sequence, you will not get that icon. So that is an extension that I have imported in mind to be able to do that. Okay. So please, any question on commenting? Okay, if there's no question, let's move on to the last thing we want to look at for today. Okay, so let me recap what we've done so far in commenting. Now, we said that Python, like any other programming language, has commenting. Commenting has its advantages and disadvantages in terms of how we go about it. Now, if you comment your code, it makes it easier for somebody else to understand your code. It makes it easier for you yourself to later come back to your code and understand what you are trying to do. And if you're going to work in team or going to work with big corporations, it is important that you comment your code. Now, there are even softwares that can pick all your comments and then use it to create what we call a health file or a document file or a text file, which you can use or give to your clients for them to understand what your software is even doing from commenting your code. So there's a lot of importance that comes with commenting. Now, in Python, if I want to comment my code, I can use the pound sign, this. When I put this sign there, anything I put there has been commented. This will not run or will not run. And I can put the comment in at the top of my code, or I can put the comment by my code. So if I put the comment at the top of my code, maybe I want to give an introduction to my code or what the code does. But if I comment a particular line of my code, I want to really pinpoint that line and what that line is doing. Good. And then if you are going to have a lot of comments, there's no need for you to be repeating. There's no need for you to be repeating your comments like this. All that you could have done was that you could have used a multi-line comment whereby the double quotes, three of them, and then another three. And then within it, you put all your information there. So that's the multi-line commenting, the multi-line comments like this. So that's the example I did here, whereby I gave the name of my software or my code, who is writing it, the version, and the dates. And then I commented this particular line to indicate that this line means that this is my first Python comment. Or I can also comment it well with the output that this line will display hello to the user. So I can comment with the output. So I know that the output is going to be a display of the information hello. So if it doesn't display hello, I know that there's a problem. Then I find out where the problem is coming from. So those are the recap on the commenting. Now, as I said, there's a downside to commenting. You can over comment on your code. Someone that learned commenting, so everything is commenting. You don't have to over comment your code. And your comment should be simple and straight to the point. Commenting is not about typing grammar or long sentences, something short, straight to the point. And also, you don't need to be rude in your commenting. Some people can be rude in their commenting by the choice of word they use, because you are working as a group. It's not only you who is working. So your commenting should be polite. So don't use harsh words when you're commenting. Then we said that commenting can help you to remember your code and what it does. Commenting can be used to outline your code, and commenting can also be used for error checking. So these are all that we have talked about under commenting. Okay. So if we are okay with this, let's move to the last topic we want to treat for today. And then we'll be giving assignments. Please, I'm not here to scare you with assignments. I just want to make sure that you understand what we are doing so far. Because the most important thing is that after this training, you should be able to apply what you are learning right now to solve issues. That is the goal. We are not only going to teach you theory, it's theory and practical together. And for you to be able to understand and resolve issues immediately. So we are going to look at the last topic, and then I'll give you some assignments, which you are expected to let us have it before our next lesson. So I'm going back here, click on new file. I'm going to create another file called variables.py. Okay. So we are going to learn about variables. Now, variables is another important concept that is in every programming language. Now, a variable is a piece of memory space that is allocated a value. Okay, so let's say in your computer memory, this is your computer memory. Computer memory has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes. Let's see. Memory has these boxes. Okay. In Python, we do not strictly define the type of variable we are trying to create. In other programming languages, you can say maybe int age. Int means that integer. So this one means that I'm creating a variable called age, which should expect only integer values. By Python, we don't do that way. If I say in Python, we just say age is equal to 7. Now, what this one means is that I'm creating a space in memory called age. I'm giving that name age, and I'm putting into it a value called 7. And in Python interpreted this as an integer. Therefore, this variable will be of a type integer. But in another programming language like C, Java, you need to strictly define the type of variable before you can assign information to it. It has its good and bad side. But in Python, this is how we go about it. In other programming language, you need to define the type of data before you assign it a value. So if you do this age number 7, what the operating system will, what the Python programming language will do, that it will go into the memory. So maybe to go on under the 9th box, and then it will create the age and put the 7 there. So anytime you are trying to call this age, it knows that it put it under memory location 9, and then to pick the information there and display it out for you. That's how the computer understands it. It uses zeros and ones, but we will see it in English as age is equal to 7. So anytime you define a variable, you are creating space in memory to store that variable. Therefore, the more space you have in memory, the more memory space you have, the more variables you can create in the long run. Now, sometimes you can have your code, it will be running. After a while, you get an error called out of low memory. That means you have used all the memory location for that, your code that you are running. So, but in Python automatically handles the memory management. With other programming languages, you should define where in memory is going to store And after you finish using the variable, you need to tell it to clear it out of the memory. By Python is able to, it has automatic garbage collector that's able to handle the memory location. So we don't bother about clearing data from the memory after we have used it. Python will do it automatically for you. And in Python, we do not strictly define the variable, the type of variable. The information you assign to that variable will become the type of variable. So for instance, if I say now age is equal to, if I do it this way, when I run this in Python, first, it will say age is 7. 7 is an integer. But now I'm now saying age is now Paul. Paul is a string. So when I run this and I say print age, the output I should get will be Paul. And the type of variable will be a string. So a variable is a space in memory that is created to store data. Now, we have the 4 basic variable types. We have string, str. Integer. We have float or decimal. So these are the basic data types you have. We have more advanced ones in Python like dictionary, which in other programming languages, they call it an array. We have lists, we have tuple, we have sets. And these, you can mix these ones to create complex data types to handle the type of data you want to handle. But at the basic, we have string, integers, float, and Boolean. So Boolean is yes or no. Now, in Python, decimals are called floats. So if I have 1.2 in Python, it is called a float. In other programming languages, it's a decimal. Then we have an integer. So 1, 2, 3 integer. Then we have string. With Python, string can be double quotes or single quote. The only rule is that you don't mix them together. If you're using double quote, you're using single quote, single quote. Okay, so let's look at these variables that we have here. So age is 7. So this will become an integer. The age is an integer variable. E-levy 1.5. So e-levy is a float variable. Name, you can use a double quote or the single quote. It's active is what? A Boolean, true or false. Okay, so string is a text type. For our numeric data types, we have integer, float, and complex. For sequencing types, we have list, tuples, and range. For mapping types, we have dictionaries called dict. That's how we able to use it. For set type, we have frozen set and set. For Boolean type, we have Boolean. For binary, we have bytes, byte array, memory view. Then we have a non-type. Python has a non-type. So I can define a variable and give it a value of none. So that's the non what type. So in more of the subsequent lessons, we'll look at some of these data types. Then some of them too, we'll look at it in the intermediate class. But these are the data types. Now, there's one nice thing about Python, which is called typecasting. But before we do that, let's look at the rules of creating a variable. So a variable name is case sensitive. So age, small letter, and age with a capital A are two different variables. Now, a variable can start with a letter or an underscore, but it cannot start with a number. So age is okay. Age is okay. I cannot say one age. This is wrong. You see, it has even given me a red mark. So those are the simple variable rules. They are case sensitive. So this and then this are these two are two different variables. You can start with an underscore or a number, but you cannot start with a word. You can start with an underscore or an alphabet, but you cannot start with a number. So those are the rules when it comes to creating variables. Now, the next concept I want us to understand is typecasting. Okay, so typecasting is the process of converting one data type to another data type. So for instance, maybe you are in one thing we need to understand in programming is that do not always anticipate the user to provide the correct information. Some users are bad. So don't assume that the user is always going to give you the right information. You need to check and make sure that what the information the user is giving is right. So for example, if I have a program which the program says that enter salary amount, I'm expecting it to be an integer or a float. I can be paid 13.5 cedis or I can be paid 13 cedis. But I don't expect you to put age there or a string there. So if you put a string there and I'm expecting an age, an integer there, when I process that data, I'll get an error. So you don't always assume that the user will type the correct information. So one way we can also do is that we can also use typecasting to make sure that we convert what the user has typed to the correct data type we want before we can process it. So typecasting is a process of converting a literal of one type to another. So we will use these to convert from one type to another. So int, float, and str. So anytime I use str into bracket and I put a variable there, it means I want to convert that variable to a string. If I use float, I want to convert it to a float, or integer, I want to convert it to an integer. So that is typecasting. So you convert from one to the other type. So a practical example is that I can say print int, and maybe age was this. So say age. When I print this, it will convert it to integer 7. So that is typecasting, converting from one to another type. After all this, I'm going to give you some practical examples we are going to run and make sure that we are getting the correct outputs before your assignment. Not only going to be talk, but we are going to try our hands on something. Okay, so another thing I want us to look at is what we call multiple assignment. Now I can say A is 2. If I have A is 2, B is equal to 2, and also C is equal to 2. I say A, comma B, comma C is equal to 2. So this is a way of assigning this 2 to all of these variables. It's called multiple assignment. Now, so let's put it this way. Let's look at another example. I have these variables: name, age, school, class, is girl. And I'm assigning all of these things to them all in one row. So what Python do is that this will go with this one. This will go with this one. This will go with this one. School will go with this one. Class will go with this one. And this will go with this one. So that is example of multiple assignment. Some of these shorthands make it easy for you to be able to do things. So one thing that people say that a lot of lines of code can be shortened in Python and made. So maybe in a program, in another programming language, it will take you maybe 7 lines to do something. In Python, it can take you 3 lines to do the same thing. So that is what we call multiple assignments. Okay, so let me clear everything here. Let's try our hands on some code and let's understand. So let's say I have age is equal to 7. And I have age again is equal to 7 like this. When I say print age, when I save this and I run this, now we are going to run this code. I'll show you one method now. We'll look at another method of running the code. Now, if you have your terminal still open, you could change directory to your py folder. When you type dir, you see the two codes we have, the two files we have here, commenting.py and variable.py. Now, if I type Python space variables.py and I press enter, it will run that code for me, or that file for me. Now, it has printed 7, just as we have here. But from what I told you earlier, this was a type of integer. I've put it in a quotation, so it is a type of string. So if I come back here and you have to use a type command. The type command with any variable will output the type of variable it is. But I want to print it out to the screen, so I put it also in another quote. So when I run the program again, Python variable.py, I press enter. See that it has printed the 7 all right down here. Now it's telling me that it's a class of string. That means that it is this particular one is what it has printed. It reads the code from top to down. So at the first instance, age was an integer. Now age is now a string. Even though it is still 7, it is a string. Now, this type is very, very important because sometimes when you try to add figures together, you might get error. Anytime that when I print it out, I'm getting numbers. I'm adding 2 numbers, I'm getting error. But you have to look at the type, whether it's an integer before. So it's to tell you that you give an error telling you that I cannot add string and integer together. You have to know that one of your output is of a string type. So you might have to convert it to the integer before you can print it. So now, from what we did, this first one, print age. So we are saying print the type of variable called age. Now, we've learned about the int, float, and then the string. And these are what we use to typecast, change from one to another. So as we said, this one here from our code is a type of string. So if I want to convert it to an integer, so I can say integer age, but I want to print this information out. So normally you use the print command like this to print. So I copy this inside this, so I have to print it out. Now, if I copy this code again and print it down here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say age is now equal to an integer of type age, that I'm converting it to a type age. And I'll want to get a type again. Now, for the first code, we got 7 and type of string. When we save this and we rerun it again, see that we get 7 all right. First, it was a type of string. Now it has been converted to a type of integer. So that is an integer. Now, when you try to add these two, right now when you try to do an operation on it, mathematical operation on it, you'll get the correct answer. Please, any questions so far? Okay, so Moses wants us to go over what I did again. So, okay, I created a variable called age and I assigned it 7. And 7 is an integer. So age is a variable of the type integer. Then that same age, I reassigned it a different value, which is a string called 7. So now when I printed age, I'll still get 7 as I did it down here, the first one, but it's of a type of string. So for me to do the type, I put type and the variable here, and I put it into the print function. When I print it out, it told me that I still got 7, but this time it is saying that it is of the type string. Now, And we don't want age to be of a type string because age should be an integer. Therefore, I use typecast, whereby I'm converting whatever I put here to an integer. So I can comment it and say that convert age of type string to integer. Then print type of variable. So after converting this to an integer, as we assign it to the same variable again. And then I want to print it with the type to see whether it has been converted successfully. So when you see down here, it is 7, all right. But this 7 was a type of string. It is now a type of integer. So I've converted it to an integer. Moses, are you okay with the explanation?
Yes, sir.
Moses, are you okay with the explanation?
Yes, sir. I'm okay, sir.
Okay. Now, let's do some 2 questions. And let's try to understand the questions and I'm going to solve them. Okay, so Josephine, in the terminal, I am under my py folder. Now, to run any Python program, you type Python and then the name of the program. The program is always supposed to end in .py. So you see, I have variables.py here and I have commenting.py here. So what we are doing is some variables.py. So Python space. Now in command prompt, when I start typing the variable, when I start typing a name of a file and I press the tab bar, it automatically completes the process for me. If we don't have more than one type of the same name, you might have to give it more name before you press the tab bar. So for example, what I'm trying to say is that because I only have one program with the starting with the variable with the letter V, when I type Python space V and I press tab, it will complete the process for me. So by Python space variables of py, when I press enter, it will run the program and give you the output. So that's what we did in the terminal. Okay. I'm going to clear everything here, paste a question here, and then let's see whether we can solve this question. Okay, so the question is that write a program that swaps the value of two variables. For example, if x is 5 and y is 10, the program should swap their values so that y becomes 10, x becomes 10 and y becomes 5. Okay, so this is the question. So just wait. He said it's showing only py. Py is the name of the folder. We created a folder called py, and then we created a file in that folder called variables.py. So in the terminal, we have to change directory to the py folder before we can run the Python space, the name of the file, which is variable.py. Yes, so you have to create the variable.py. So if you look at my screen, in my py folder, when I highlight my py folder and I go to the icons here, the first icon is new file. When I click on it, I type variables.py and press enter to create that variables for me, py folder. And then that's where I put the code there. Okay, so do that. Okay, so with this question, let's use commenting to break it down for us. Then we start. So we are going to, first, what we are going to do is that we are going to show the variables before we do the swap. So the swapping. So the question says that we are going to write a program that's going to swap the values of two variables. For example, if x is 5 and y is 10. So the first thing is that we are going to show those variables. Therefore, we have to make a variable x. So x is 5. Y should be equal to 10. From the example they gave. So the first commenting is that show the variables. So after showing it, let's, for example, display these variables to the user. So print before swapping. So before swapping, x is equal to print y So you see how we are trying to approach the question. We are breaking the question down by commenting with what we are going to do. And at each commenting, we put the code that's going to do that thing under it. So the first thing we're supposed to do is that we want to show the variables before we do the swapping. So that these are variables. We want to show / assign the variable before we do the swapping. So for the question, x is 5, y is 10. So I've done it. X is equal to 5, y is equal to 10. Then I want to display to the user that before we are swapping x and the value, y and the value. Now, so do the swapping. After do the swapping, we have to print the new values to the user. Okay, so under doing the swapping, how do we do the swapping? Okay. Now let's create another variable to store one of the values before we do the swap. So let's say that j is equal to x. Now, x is 5. When we say j is equal to x, what it means is that now j is also having the same value that as x is. So j is now 5. X is also 5. But what we have done is that we've now assigned the value of x to another variable called y, so that when we clear the value of x, we can still remember that value. So after doing that, now we can now say that x is now equal to y. So now what we've done is that, let me use commenting to explain. We have assigned the value of x to j. So j is now equal to 5. That's what this line does. Now, the second line is that we are now assigning the value of y to x. So now x is equal to 10. Then we say y is equal to j. So what it means that we have assigned the value 5 to y. So this is how we've done the swap. We created a new variable to store one of the variable information. Then we did the swap. So after doing the swap, we can now copy this, print it back here, and say after swapping. And then y is this, this is this. When we save this and we run it, let me use CLS down here to clear everything down here. Now, at the command prompt, if you use the up arrow key, it will give you the previous command you typed. The down will give you the current command. Up arrow key will give you the previous command. So I click up 2 times and then it has brought back the Python variable.py. Now, when I run this program, now you say before, okay, spelling mistake for my before. I left an E here. Okay. Before the swap, x is 5, y is 10. After the swapping, x is now 10, y is now 5. Please, do you understand what we just did? If there's any need for clarification, let me know. If you think you are okay with it, let me see by hand so that I give you another question. And then we can call it a day. If you don't have any more questions, then we will send you a class exercise to make sure you've understood what we've done so far. Please try and do it individually. We are not interested in who got the highest marks or who got correct, who got wrong. We just want to be sure that you're understanding the concept so far, because it's a building block. If you don't get this one and we put something else on it, the building will crumble. in the long run. So we're building it small by small. Okay, let's look at another question. Okay, so there's a question here from Josephine. The Python in the detail does not say that. Yeah, Josephine. So your variables.py, where is it located? Is it on your drive C or is it on your drive D? Okay, so if you are on your drive C like this, you need to change directory to py and type dr to see whether you can see the py folder there. Please, we'll be closing soon. I just want to give one more quick example and then we are done. Yes, so anytime you make changes to your Python file, you need to save it before you run it. Other than that, it will run the previous one. What you save will not be run. So anytime you make any changes, you need to save it before you run it. Yeah, I think George can will help to assist to make the recording available. Also, after this session, we'll have a WhatsApp group created. You can contact me or George anytime you have any question whilst you're doing your practice so that we can assist you with it. Okay, so let's look at this last program question and then we call it a day. And then we will send you some assignments, last exercise for you to try your hands on. Okay, so this is the last question I want us to look at. So by God's grace, we finished this program. You are now a Python guru working with Ghana's version of NASA. And then there's a problem that is preventing us from launching our first satellite into space. So the problem is that I get an error, cannot add string to integer. And this is the code. This is the code we have here. Good. So please, who can identify where the problem is coming from and how we can go about it?
Sir. Hello.
Moses,
Hello,
are you
sir.
speaking?
Yes, sir. It looks like the latitude is a string, and then the longitude is an integer, and then the
Moses, your
longitude.
mic seems to be on, but I can't hear you. Are you speaking? Are you trying to help us with the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think there's an issue with the mic. Can anybody type in the chat how we can go about it? Oh, okay. Moses, it seems I cannot hear you. So please, if you could type what you are saying in the chat box for us.
Okay, sir.
Moses, so please, if you could type what you are saying. It seems I have an issue with my mic. I can't hear you. Okay, so the first thing is that we have to be able to identify where the problem is coming from. So the problem is that we are trying to add a string to an integer. So we've seen that the latitude is in quotation marks. So that means it is an integer. It's a string. Then the longitude is by itself without any quotation marks. So that is a what? A string, an integer. So for us to be able to add, you can't add string to an integer. You can only add an integer to an integer or an integer to a float. So our solution is that we have to convert the latitude to an integer. So we do that by using the cast command, the type command. So latitude is now going to be equal to type int latitude. So this will convert it to an integer. So then we just say distance is latitude plus longitude. Then we will just print the distance. Okay, so that is how we would go about to solve the problem. So at least I'm happy you were able to identify the problem. That is 50% of the problem being solved. The other 50 is to actually do it. So yes, so we use a type casting. So a recap, we've learned about commenting, we've learned about data types, we've learned about the type command, we've learned about casting, the multi assignment. The type will let us know the type of variable. And the casting, we either use the int, the string, or float to convert one data type to the other and multiple assignments. Yes. So this is what we've done so far. And then that's the question that we're giving. So if we don't have any question, I think the recording will be made available to you. Also, we will send you your class assignment. You have 1 week to complete it. If you have any problem, just contact me or George. We'll try to assist you to resolve it. Try and do it independently by yourself so that we understand where the issues are and how we can go about to help resolve it. So on that note, if there is no question, I'd like to thank you for this session. We've taken a bit of your time, but it's all good because we really wanted to make sure that we are all on the same page. So we thank you for the opportunity that you've given to us for us to be able to have this class. And we know that it's something big we are starting. So you people are going to enjoy the subsequent lessons and then we are going to have more practical experience with it. Thank you very much.